What I've really noticed with this place is the airflow, really. Being able to have such a large door and feel that I'm working outside but inside. But when I'm making sculptures and stuff, it's quite lovely to be able to have things hung up so you can then weld underneath it and around it and pick something up, lay it down, turn it upside down, drag it, push it, pull it, whatever it is. I don't have to think, oh God, I've got to break it. Oh, metal, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is where it's the path I've chosen to do, but I can seem to get it to go whichever direction I want it to go in the end, if I hit it hard enough. I do approach it in a very sort of functional, practical manner. Obviously, I want it to look beautiful and amazing and really fit the environment that it's going in. But fundamentally, it normally needs to it serves a purpose to either, give brighten up a dull corner and give it a new beginning. When I first started, it was all hammer, and now I've got machines which will planish it out a bit quicker and easier on the joints. The arms don't feel like they're going to fall off quite so much. I do like galvanised steel. I think it weathers softer. It's almost the metal itself seems to be sort of preserved. It doesn't go rusty. It's not too shiny, so it sort of holds itself together, and it changes tones depending on the season. But with stainless steel, it's forever shiny, and I mean, it's extremely good in the public environment and stuff. I think I do break it right down to the functional things in it regarding it can't hurt anyone. It can't. Kids, I want children. If someone wants to climb on it, they can climb on it. It's got to stand the test of time. It's got to look great, and stand alone, be there forever. Well, as long as you can be. At the very beginning of a project, it's just such a pleasure to stay at home in the office at home, sitting at the drawing board, with the music on, and have this sort of clean process where I'm working it all out on paper and doing the drawings and thinking, and that really is the best bit. But the majority of the time, the client is up for my suggestions, and I will then, make something which excites me, which then maybe it would take me down an avenue that I haven't done before. So therefore, then in future projects, I can think, oh, there's that thing where I've made that. I'll apply that into this next thing. So you're sort of learning as you move forwards, or you might buy a machine that is specifically for that commission. Let's say, for instance, when I did the octopus and that in the chess square, I brought a thing called the English wheel, which is it was come from an old aeroplane factory. So it would make all the cowling that would go over the top of the carburettors on the front of Spitfires and what have you. It's just a beautiful machine to be able to create very, very smooth, domed objects. I'm working on a commission for the Foreshore Trust, and I've been working with two other artists, Sarah Evans and Peter Quinnell. They've done some workshops in local schools to create a sculpture which is sort of to bring awareness to don't litter in the sea. We all know about this, but it's to try and help that cause. The material that I use is, there is a lot of energy that goes into producing a sheet of metal. It's no innocent material, but it does just break down and go back to where it came from in the beginning. So I've designed a sculpture which is in relation to those, which is hopefully going to be going on the seafront. Still not quite sure where it's going yet, but it will be hopefully a big stack of mussel shells. And that machine I told you about earlier that's going to create smooth surface, I'm going to be using it for that. So I want to create lots of mirrored, inverted, concaved mirrored surfaces. So anyone who's looking at the sculpture will see themselves upside down, as the world is upside down sometimes, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, with Butler's Gap, I mean, when I first got that commission, there was a little bit of sort of furniture in there, but it was quite a run-down little square, really. I mean, you know, but that doesn't appear to be happening anymore. And people said to me, why is the octopus pointing the other way? Why isn't it coming into the square? But it's because it was all about that little nook over in the corner and trying to make that, lift that up and give it an importance so that, you know, kids can use it. You know, it's not meant to be children's play equipment. It's street furniture or something like that. They branded it as. But again, I didn't want it just to be plonked there. So the octopus was made to be sitting on the bench and with its tentacles up round the railings and all this kind of stuff. So that really is, you know, it's made completely for that spot. It wouldn't go anywhere else. And then Winkle Island was, that was, you know, working with the fishermen and trying to create something which they were really, you know, into, and the different types of fish that they catch, and had lots of little meetings with them and down at the museum and all the equipment that they use to make the nets and this, that and the other, and trying to incorporate that all into it. You know, made all the stuff that the humans would use, like the net needles and the spikes and that, all made that out of mild steel, and then the rest of it, all the natural shells and fish and stones, are all out of stainless steel. So you got that man-made materials all rusting and tracing over the top, and all the natural stuff is all staying shiny. And when I did the boat commission, that was obviously, again, it's sea related. It was all meant to be linked to the sort of the landing of the Normans back in those 1066 period. But I didn't want it to be just a boat, so I tried to get this sort of, you know, the bird-like elements into it. So the cormorant was brought into it as well to try and give a little bit more of a, I don't want just another boat on the beach, and not have it so that it's this big blot on the landscape. It has a subtlety to it, which it needed to be, you know, really strong and formed, but I wanted it to be hollow and let the air flow through it and be able to see the environment through it. So that's hopefully what I achieved. The gate, for instance, I mean, that it has a really sort of, I've tried to create something that's got an industrial, heavy gauged feel, which suits that alleyway. I mean, the alleyway is really oppressive. You know, it's tall buildings and graffiti and fire escapes, and so that has got a heaviness to it, which so it, you know, works in that environment. I start off on the drawing board and do a lot of thinking and scratching and trying to get a rough outline idea, which then I can present to the client. Once I get sort of the thumbs up that I'm heading in the right direction, and that's when I then move on to a full-size drawing so that I can get more measurements. And as you can see behind me here, this is the plans or the drawing that I did for the gates. It was all based on printing presses. So this line that's cutting down through here was sort of representing the piece of paper going through the machine, but then it sort of comes off the machine and then goes a little bit freestyle down the bottom there. That was some little take on the breakdown of machine and gone to digital, isn't it? Everything nowadays. And everything was just so well made back then, all over formed castings with all smooth flowing lines, which are all this kind of stuff coming from all down here. And then the architectural elements, structural beams going in. I did think about putting a bit more, I was thinking of this cog here, I was thinking of actually putting the real thing in there. And I have got one at the workshop, but then I offered it up and it just didn't really marry up to the rest of the look. So I just thought, I'll make my own. You've got to have the minimum amount of structure, but with the maximum amount of strength with it. So you're able to get that airy lightness, but steel is just so strong. If you you can get so much weight and tensile strength into something which is such a small object. Metal lends itself to have these beautiful flowing lines because it does, when you form it, it just wants to go in that kind of way. It's trying to, I don't want something to look like a prison, or I don't want something to look like a block of concrete. That's obviously a very harsh environment, so building these things out of steel and iron can enable it to withstand the heavy salt and the wind and the rain and the constant abuse. It rusts and it rots, but it does take a long time to get to that point. Some of the things that I've done in the old town are already 10 years old and they don't look really any different to when I put them in. So I'll try and make them all stand alone and be individual to each other, so it's not all a big load of the same stuff. It gets a bit boring, doesn't it? So I'm hoping to try and be diverse and keep things different. In the back of my mind, I've got sculptures that I haven't made, which I would love to create. But it's my job to make something to fit this environment, and that's what I do. And later on, maybe I'll retire into trying to save the world through sculpture.